solution. I'm meteorologist John Weatherby.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. It's Bob Roth. You're listening to Health Futures, and it is Friday, January 27th, and we're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park, and it's hard to believe that this is the last Friday of January. If you're just tuning in, our show Health Futures is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. We're in our fourth year. We've been coming at you since 2014, January 2014. It's hard to believe it. And bringing great content by bringing incredible guests to the show. My family and I, we own a home care agency. And in that home care agency, we're able to provide caregivers into the home to enable our older adult population to be able to live a happier, healthier life and remain as independent as possible. And I'm going to throw out an appeal right now because this time of year, the demand gets really high, and we have a great demand for caregivers, and caregivers are what make our life and make our clients and be able to have that existence and that independence in their home. And we're looking for caring, compassionate people that want to make a difference in someone's life. If you are you know of a friend, a neighbor, family member that has that caring, compassionate heart, please call us at 602-264-8009. You know, another thing that we do here is we unfortunately have lost a few icons over the years, and we lost one just very recently, and I don't know if our engineer James has got it plugged in, but one in particular I'd like to just give a little tribute to. James, do you have that?
I'll do it at the bottom of the hour.
At the bottom of the hour, okay. We see we're in sync here, so bottom of the hour at halftime we'll do that. So without further ado, I want to introduce the people here in our studio. In our studio here today, to my right is Glenn Piche. He's a healthcare executive and a return guest to the show. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob.
And just to my left, to your right, is another returnee to the show, is Tim Cowen, and he's the executive director for this incredible community that's called Belmont Village, right in Scottsdale, right off of Frank Lloyd Wright. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. Glad to be here.
And to my left and to his right is a newcomer to the show. It is Dr. Robin Garrett. She's a neuropsychologist, and she's with the Movement Disorder Centers of Arizona. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Bob.
It's good to have you here. And then just to my left and to her right is a return guest. He was here 2.5 years ago, and that's Dr. Virgilio Evidente. He's the director and movement disorder neurologist, again, at Movement Disorder Centers of Arizona.
It's nice to be back, Bob.
It's good to have you back.
Sure.
And, you know, one of the things that, I want to really just jump right into is the work that you guys do. You do incredible work working with folks that have movement disorders, Parkinson's, as well as dementia. And I'm going to give you a big plug because you got a big event coming up here. And you didn't ask me to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Saturday, so it's a week from tomorrow, February 4th. Yes, it is the same time as the Phoenix Open. And you know what? Phoenix Open is going to be so crowded, you're not going to go there. You know, that's what Bob Uecker said, or Yogi Berra said. They don't go there anymore because it's too crowded. But you do want to go here, and it is an open house that they're going to have at their location, and that location is at 9500 East Ironwood Square Drive. It's from noon to 2 o'clock, and they're celebrating. It's called Move, Learn, and Lift Up for Better Health. And if you or a loved one suffer from Parkinson's disease, tremors, dystonia, or Huntington's disease, or any movement disorder, you need to come and join them. They're doing some spectacular things. And you've got a couple people speaking there. Dr. Evidente, you are one of them speaking. Who else is going to be speaking there?
Well, aside from myself, obviously, we're going to be talking about movement disorders, and one of the things that's really passionate to us in our facility is deep brain stimulation. So one of our guests will be Dr. Francisco Ponce. He is arguably one of the top surgeons for deep brain stimulation for movement disorders in the country. And fortunate for us, he actually is here in Arizona, in our neck of the woods, and he would be one of the resource persons for that event. So we're very excited about that.
Fantastic. And I know that you're going to be there as well, Dr. Garrett. You're going to be speaking as well?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about Movement Disorder Centers of Arizona.
Okay, so the Movement Disorder Center of Arizona is a facility. It's a neurological center that specializes in the care, diagnosis, and long-term follow-up, both medically and surgically for patients with a variety of movement disorders. So the most common movement disorders we see are tremor and Parkinson's disease, and in Arizona we have a huge elderly population. So and in fact, most of the bread and butter that we see in the facility are elderly patients with a variety of Parkinsonian syndromes and a variety of tremors, and a lot of these patients are diagnosed as suffering from Parkinson's disease or essential tremor when in fact they suffer from something else. So what we do is we do a comprehensive workup of these patients. We do a multidisciplinary approach in diagnosing these patients. We do the tests necessary in-house, including neuropsychological testing. The only thing we don't do in-house would be radiology testing,
okay,
which we send out to the community facilities around us. And then we come up with a comprehensive team approach in terms of treating their movement disorder.
No, it's a full encompassing movement disorder center. And like you said, I mean, we are so blessed with some of the things that we have in our community right here in Arizona. We've got these incredible resources, and yours being one of them. You know, it's also interesting is that, and I've had this here on the show, we talk a lot about dementia and Alzheimer's. And Dr. Garrett, you know, one of the things that you and I talked about before we got on the show is, you know, Parkinson's patients, eventually, if they live long enough, right, we didn't talk about this, but they will develop dementias, right?
Yeah, they can.
And you know, that's part of the challenges that we have with this disease is, you know, that does in fact happen. You know, one of the things that, you know, or one of the guests that we have here on the show is just over to your right, my right, your left, and that's Tim Cowen. And you have this amazing community. You've been on the show talking about serving the Parkinson's population. And, you know, Tim, can you share us a little bit about Belmont Village and what you guys are doing over there?
Sure. Thanks, Bob. It's probably not unlike what you're doing with residents when they live in their home. In our situation at Belmont Village, we handle a lot of wonderful residents, many of whom may be patients of Dr. Evidente at the Movement Disorder Center. And the timely administration of medication, among other things, is critical. Keeping people active and engaged, socialization, preventing falls, fall prevention, all of that is important. So at a place like Belmont Village, it's a Texas-based company, but a strong commitment to clinical care, which is vitally important for people with movement disorders. So most medications in assisted living communities around the country, I believe, are administered by people other than nurses, caregivers or med techs or whatever. And at Belmont, we have 14 nurses on the staff. And so it's just remarkable to be able to have that kind of clinical care for people who have movement disorders, because you're really trying to prevent the falls and administer medications that a Dr. Evidente or whomever may be prescribing on time without fail to help prevent them. So it's a special pleasure to be able to provide loving, compassionate care, just as you were talking about with your caregivers, to that population.
Well, you know what's nice, too, is that you talked about, you're engaging your residents by doing exercise routines, eating your meals, taking your meds and taking them at the right time, and providing that whole socialization aspect, which is so important for people to live that healthier, happier life.
Absolutely.
It's hard to believe we're down one segment. Music's on, and we're talking Parkinson's, we're talking movement disorders. I've got Dr. Evidente, I've got Dr. Garrett, I got Tim Cowen from Belmont Village, and I got Glenn Piche here. Glenn, you've been kind of quiet, so we'll have to get you talking a little bit about second segment.
Sounds good, Bob.
Sound like a plan?
Yeah, thanks.
You're listening to Health Futures. I'm Bob Roth, your host. We will be right back.
If you've ever thought about investing in real estate, but you haven't because you just aren't interested in the typical hassles and headaches of real estate, then don't touch that dial. For over a decade, Investment Property Experts has been helping investors take advantage of the growing Metro Phoenix real estate market through a unique offering of turnkey real estate investment services. Investment Property Experts eliminates the hassles and headaches by providing a full inventory of single-family homes that are fully renovated and occupied with tenants. IPX manages the property for you during the time you own it, and when the time comes, they can help you get it back on the market and facilitate the sale, all at no additional cost to you. And if you'd rather not purchase and own investment properties, Investment Property Experts offers a 9% return through deed of trust investment programs. Real estate market conditions in Phoenix have never been better. And with Investment Property Experts on your side, you'll be able to diversify into profitable real estate investments right from day one. Investment Property Experts, your true one-stop shop for real estate investing success. Get started by visiting azipx.com.
Saturday means as much as someday. Just ask the kids. So when you promise a weekend of camping they'll have. At Alaris, we promise to help you prepare for your future without sacrificing your present. Because we believe planning for tomorrow shouldn't get in the way of planning for tomorrow. See how Alaris does banking, mortgage, retirement, and wealth management differently at Alaris.com. Or stop by and talk with us today.
You have to decide, am I willing to get in right now? Is the world over? Is the good world over? Is it going to crash?
Miss your chance to ask Del a question during the show? You can connect with Del off the air, too. Go to DelOnTheRadio.com, click on the Twitter link, and ask your question. Hashtag AskDel.
I believe that a good teacher has the skill set to be able to bring people through multiple levels of learning that are completely different from one another.
Have a comment for Del instead? Use hashtag TellDel.
This Saturday, come into Village Inn for their Chicken Fried Frenzy. When you buy one chicken fried steak entree, you'll get another free. Only this Saturday, only at Village Inn.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures. I'm your host, Bob Roth. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park, the last Friday of January 27th. And we can be found on 1510 AM and 105.3 FM, a new dial station for Money Radio KFNN. So 1510 AM, 105.3 FM. And if you're just tuning in, we're in our second segment. And we're talking movement disorders. We're talking about Parkinson's. We're talking about dystonia. We're talking about Huntington's disease, tremors, you name it. And I am very privileged to have in the studio with me two doctors from the Movement Disorder Center of Arizona. I've got Dr. Robin Garrett. I've got Dr. Virgilio Evidente. And I've got Tim Cowen from Belmont Village and Glenn Piche, who is a healthcare executive. And when we last left off on the first segment, Tim, we were talking about your community. And I want to just be able to tell our community, our radio listening audience, how they can find out more about you guys. You know, they can call over at 480-945-3600, and you're located at 13850 North Frank Lloyd Wright, in a beautiful community. You've been there how long now?
Beautiful community. We're celebrating our 5th anniversary at the end of February.
Nice.
So it's brand new, almost 140 beautiful apartments. It's an all-concrete structure, on-site therapy, which we hadn't talked about before, which is unusual to be able to have PT/OT and speech therapy, which can be very helpful as well, along with the nursing component.
And, I made that appeal before about caregivers, and Tim said at the break, we need help too. So, we have, and I've talked about the shortage of caregivers. We have an aging demographic, and, if you're listening in and you want someone or someone that might benefit from, working in this profession, someone that's a caring spirit, caring heart, wants to make a difference in someone's life, beside having them call Cypress, please have them call Belmont Village.
Cypress HomeCare and Belmont share a lot in common, and that is looking for beautiful, wonderful people who have great hearts and good heads.
So I want to ask you one last question before I jump over back to the doctors. How's the food? Because it's all about the food.
Would you believe Chef Travis is a certified executive chef? And I don't know there are more than 5,000 of those in the country. He came from many years at a country club. We've worked together for many years. Come on over and enjoy a lunch. It's absolutely spectacular food. And that's a very important part of what happens socially, is not just to offer hot and cold or assigned seating, but it's a regular restaurant-style menu with a very extensive array of options and terrific food.
So if you're listening in, you want to try some really good food, and you want to visit a great community, Belmont Village is your destination. Please give those folks a call. So I want to go back over to you, Dr. Evidente. We're talking about Parkinson's disease and Parkinsonism, right? Did I say that? Parkinson's?
Yes, you did.
All right. So what is it? And how does this all happen? Obviously there's a lot of science behind that I don't know, and I just know this name, Parkinson's.
Sure. Parkinsonism is a broader term that includes patients that look like they had Parkinson's disease. So I guess the most common symptom that makes patients be diagnosed with a Parkinsonian syndrome or Parkinsonism will be slowness of movements. And so inevitably, as one gets older, especially if you reach your 80s or 90s or even late 70s, you develop different arthritic conditions, and you develop a bad back, neuropathy, and so on and so forth, injuries from your youth. And patients start to move slower. And so a lot of these patients develop slowness of movements, which is the sine qua non, the most important feature of Parkinsonism. But Parkinson's disease is the most common cause of Parkinsonism. So it's not just slowness of movements, or what we call bradykinesia. Brady means slow, kinesia means movements. But Parkinson's disease includes the slowness of movements. They usually develop a tremor at rest, which usually starts in one hand or one limb. It's usually very asymmetric in the beginning. They develop rigid muscles or stiffness of the muscles. And they become more stooped in posture. They become poker face. Their voice becomes softer. So it's a syndrome. It's a combination of different symptoms. And then we now have a special brain scan called a dopamine scan, or a DAT scan, that measures the dopamine levels in the so-called basal ganglia, which are the movement centers in the brain.
And is that an MRI?
Well, it's like an MRI, but it really doesn't look at the brain structures. All it does is measure the dopamine levels in the so-called striatum, which are involved. These are deep structures in the brain which are involved in regulation of movement. So if somebody moves slow from a non-Parkinson's disease or atypical Parkinsonian syndrome, you do a DAT scan, and usually the DAT scan is normal. However, if somebody has slowness of movements and a tremor from Parkinson's disease, or perhaps multiple system atrophy, which is one of the atypical Parkinsonian syndromes, or perhaps progressive supranuclear palsy, or dementia with Lewy bodies, which is a combination of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. This latter four Parkinsonian syndromes, if you do a DAT scan, the dopamine levels are abnormal. So it really helps us differentiate one from the other. Now, mind you, even among movement specialists like myself, where we kind of say, okay, we're very well trained, we have decades of experience in seeing this, we see Parkinson's patients every day. Without the DAT scan, the rate of misdiagnosis can still be as much as 20 to 30%, even in the hands of experts.
Wow.
So you can imagine that without the DAT scan or dopamine scan, we can be treating patients years and years on end, giving them useless medications, and the main reason they don't respond to the medications that their neurologist or their physician gives them is because the diagnosis is wrong. So at the Movement Disorder Center of Arizona, we have a different approach. It all starts with the right diagnosis.
Right.
So we field these patients to different specialists within the center and do the necessary tests and come up with a diagnosis first.
You know, it's been said on our show, and Tim, you and I had spoken before. We had the folks from the Muhammad Ali Parkinson's Foundation here talking about this, and it's interesting because I don't know if our listening audience realizes this, and that is when you've seen one patient with Parkinson's, you've seen one patient with Parkinson's. It's so it displays. And it is so different in every individual. You never have the same type of diagnosis, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, when patients come to my office and say, hey, my neighbor actually got really good results with this new drug that we heard just came out of the market, why can't you put me on this new drug? And I kind of tell them, well, every Parkinson's patient is different. There's no two Parkinson's patient that's exactly the same in whatever course, whatever time frame you are in the course of the disease.
No, I wanted to share that with our listening audience because that's really interesting to see. Because I mean, you know, we have lots of diseases and morbidities that happen in our community, and so many of them look the same and are the same. But with Parkinson's, it's so different from one patient to the next. You know, one of the things that I learned from you when you were on the show 2.5 years ago, I learned so much about this thing called DBS, deep brain stimulation, and how it does to help treat people. Can you share a little bit with our listening audience what that is and what does that mean?
Okay, so deep brain stimulation is a surgical procedure where we put electrodes into the brain that home into the target structures, usually the basal ganglia, that regulate the movements in your body. And then you have a pacemaker device in your chest that sends electrical impulses to these electrodes in your brain. So it's like a brain pacemaker. So it doesn't pace the heart, it paces the brain. So this is called deep brain stimulation. So most of this abnormal movements that one manifests with, so-called movement disorders, are due to abnormal circuitry or electrical circuitry in the brain structures that regulate movement. So if you electrically stimulate the structures, you actually normalize the movement. So it's really magical. And this is one of the most gratifying things that we do at the Movement Centers of Arizona. We have one of the busiest DBS practice in the state, and we're able to help patients with severe Parkinson's, severe tremors, severe dystonia, severe chorea, or even patients with tics or Tourette's that may have no response or no sufficient response to their medications. This is their hope for possible reversal or at least alleviation of their movements.
And the results are amazing. And I want to get back. It's hard to believe we're wrapping up our second segment now. And Dr. Garrett, we haven't really heard from you or from you, Mr. Piche, but I want to get back when we come back in the third segment and talk a little bit more about deep brain stimulation. You're listening to Health Futures. I'm your host, Bob Roth. It's halftime here at Money Radio Studios. We'll be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
British Prime Minister Theresa May, the first foreign head of state to meet with President Trump, the two appearing in the White House East Room for a very brief news conference.
There are many issues on which the United Kingdom and the United States stand alongside one another.
Torture is not one of them, however, and the Prime Minister said the UK would not follow along if President Trump used it. He said he'll let Defense Secretary Mattis, who opposes torture, to decide that.
I don't necessarily agree, but I would tell you that he will override because I'm giving him that power.
Prime Minister May said she wants sanctions on Russia to continue, but President Trump said it's too early for a decision on that. He did say, however, that after a telephone call today with Mexico's President Peña Nieto, he'll be moving forward on trade issues.
We are going to renegotiate our trade deals, and we're going to renegotiate other aspects of our relationship with Mexico.
A lackluster day on Wall Street with stocks mostly lower in afternoon trading, weak earnings reports, and fourth quarter GDP data giving investors little to cheer. I'm Michael Toscano.
Hiring is the most challenging part of my job.
We started using ZipRecruiter about 3 months ago. One click and my job was posted to 200 plus job boards, all the top sites.
All of the candidates came to my dashboard, and it's easy to compare them.
And I couldn't believe the number of great applicants we got. I don't know how we hired before ZipRecruiter.
Find the best candidates with ZipRecruiter, where your job is just one click away from 200 plus job sites. And right now you can try ZipRecruiter free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/find. That's ZipRecruiter.com/find.
Geico presents a voicemail from your friend, Lightning.
Hey, bud, Joe Pal Lightning. I was just hanging out in the old Cloudaroo here. I thought I'd give you a call. I hope you're still not sore about that time I deep-fried your big screen TV with that bolt. Yeah, I've been meaning to pay you back for that one, for sure. A little short on cash at the moment, but any day now. Yep. Well, anywho, talk later.
Lightning won't pay for the damage it causes. Luckily, the Geico Insurance Agency makes getting coverage a snap. Visit geico.com to see how affordable renter's insurance can be.
When the sun goes down, Money Radio heats up with Gary Caldbaum, Clark Howard, and The Schnitt Show. Listen to Money Radio on 99.3 FM, where you can hear us all day, every day.
Support for Money Radio comes from Thrivent Financial, where faith and finances connect for good. Thrivent helps its members be wise with money and live generously. More than 2.3 million Christians count on Thrivent to help them protect their families and strengthen the communities where they live, work, and worship. To learn more about what makes Thrivent unique, contact me, Michael Burrick, at 480-513-6392. That's 480-513-6392.
Hiring is the most challenging part of my job.
We started using ZipRecruiter about 3 months ago. One click and my job was posted to 200 plus job boards, all the top sites.
All of the candidates came to my dashboard, and it's easy to compare them.
And I couldn't believe the number of great applicants we got. I don't know how we hired before ZipRecruiter.
Find the best candidates with ZipRecruiter, where your job is just one click away from 200 plus job sites. And right now you can try ZipRecruiter free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/find. That's ZipRecruiter.com/find.
Arizona is rolling out the voluntary travel ID, which complies with the Federal Real ID Act. You'll need it for air travel and to access federal and military facilities. But there's no rush to get one. Your current driver license or ID is good until October 1st, 2020. The cost is $25 and it's valid for 8 years. To learn how to get your voluntary travel ID and the documents you'll need, visit azdot.gov/travel ID. Sponsored by ADOT in partnership with the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
If you're listening to this message, then that's a good sign. In fact, we're always interested in good signs. Good signs that identify people in places. Good signs that communicate important information. With our business, we not only encourage good signs, we create them. We're Croy Sign Systems. Our signs identify, direct, and inform so you can navigate through life faster and easier. And that's a really good Croy sign. Call Croy Sign Systems today at 480-619-6070 or visit us online at kroysigns.com.
Check out A&D Barbershop and pamper your face with the Royal Hot Towel Shave. Visit adbarbershop.com or call 602-265-1556. Open 7 days a week.
I'm Bruce Vail with Your Money Now. The share of American workers in unions fell to the lowest level on record in 2016, reviving a downward trend for organized labor after membership figures had stabilized in recent years. New policies from the Trump administration threaten to reduce union membership among government workers, but might help stem membership losses among manufacturing and construction workers. Shares of Bed Bath & Beyond are down more than 1%. Standard & Poor's lowered its rating outlook on the home goods retailer to negative, saying the company reported consistently negative sales and declining margins in the first 3 quarters of fiscal 2016, and it expects that trend to continue. The broader market is lower at this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 22 points. The Nasdaq Composite is back in negative territory, down just a fraction. The S&P 500 is down 3. That's Your Money Now.
For me, it was the big S-Class from the 90s.
beautiful. My friend's dad had one.
The SL. All of the SLs. I've been watching those since I was a kid.
I think the 1971 SC was the first Mercedes that just blew me away.
Everyone remembers the first time they saw one, and the day they began to long for a Mercedes-Benz of their own. Well, that day may be a lot closer than you think. With a certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz, you can experience the luxury, the unparalleled safety, the performance, and the style Mercedes-Benz is famous for at a price you can afford. Beautiful SUVs, sedans, coupes, and convertibles that are factory certified and covered by an unlimited mileage warranty for up to 3 years, so you can drive without a worry for as far as you like. And during the certified pre-owned sales event going on now through February 28th, you can receive 2 years of complimentary prepaid maintenance and special financing available through Mercedes-Benz Financial Services, only at your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer. You've waited long enough.
See your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer for complete details and limitations on certified pre-owned warranties.
Who can turn the world on with her smile? Who can take a nothing day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile? Love is all around, no need to waste it. You can never tell, why don't you take it? You're gonna make it after all.
Oh, Rob!
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Health Futures, not the Dick Van Dyke Show or Mary Tyler Moore's show. We are starting our third segment, and we are now in sync with the engineer, James. So thank you, James. We lost a great icon in the television world, and Mary Tyler Moore. For those that may recall, she became famous with the Dick Van Dyke Show. She was Laura Petrie back in 1961. And I've had a few friends of mine tell me what a crush they had on her back in those days. And then she created the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and earth-shattering what they did with that show. I mean, they really, broke a lot of paradigms and really broke out, a working woman, single woman, and the things that she accomplished. One fact that James shared with me that I wasn't aware of is that initially she was supposed to be a divorced single woman, and Carl Reiner changed that because he was afraid that people would think that she got divorced from Dick Van Dyke, Rob Petrie, so she was a single woman. But she's legendary. She was on a mission to really help bring awareness to juvenile diabetes, and did so many wonderful things in so many great television shows as well as movies. One that I particularly recall was Ordinary People. She did a great job with that back in 1980. Tim
Matheson.
Tim Matheson or Timothy Hutton. He was in that show. Timothy Hutton. He did a great job in that show. So I want to pivot and go back to what we were talking about. And we were talking, if you missed our first two segments, you can catch them up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the radio button. But when we left off on the second segment, I was talking to Dr. Evidente, and we were talking about DBS. And, it's amazing what deep brain stimulation has done, not just for Parkinson's, but as you were mentioning as we were ending the segment, other illnesses and other challenges that human beings have with DBS.
Oh, absolutely. And deep brain stimulation, although it's most commonly used for Parkinson's disease and tremor, particularly essential tremor, it also is useful for other movement disorders, like, for instance, patients with dystonia. And dystonia means abnormal spasming of a body part. So the most common dystonia, focal dystonia we see, would be cervical dystonia, which is dystonia of the neck. So we see patients with what's called the wry neck, when their neck is kind of twisted towards one side. Or how many elderly individuals, for instance, are there in facilities like Belmont, where their neck is kind of pushed forward, and we kind of chuck this to, okay, this is old age and maybe a little bit of arthritis of the neck. So that's called dystonia. of the neck. What about patients with or individuals with squinty eyes? They kind of have spasms of the eyes, and this is a form of focal dystonia referred to as blepharospasm, which is the second most common form of focal dystonia. And there's patients with dystonia of a limb, like for instance, their hand can be twisted, their arm can be twisted, their foot can be turning in, their toes can be curling down, or their big toe can be going up spontaneously, or when they walk, they drag one leg and the leg kind of twists or turns towards one direction. So this is called dystonia, and sometimes we see patients with generalized dystonia. They're just twisted like a pretzel. They have dystonia from head to foot. Their eyes are squinty. Their mouth is open, or their mouth or jaw deviates towards one side. Their neck is twisted towards one side. Their trunk is contorted. So this is referred to as generalized dystonia. And then there's individuals with what's called chorea. Chorea would be involuntary movements that appear like they were dancing. They're fidgeting. And so chorea can be the entire body or can be in one side. In fact, I was just in rehab last evening seeing a patient that had chorea just in one side from of all things, diabetes.
Wow.
She had a huge surge in her sugar to about almost 600. She became confused, and then when she came out of this confusional spell, she had chorea just in one side of the body. And one of the things I told her, and she was desperate, medications was not helping. And I said, well, guess what? There's now deep brain stimulation, which can be used to alleviate patients with chorea that do not respond to medications.
Amazing, and our listening audience knows, and I since Dr. Garrett, you're new to the show, and Tim, I think I shared with you, I serve on the board for Banner Alzheimer's Institute, and they're doing some stuff with DBS right now with Alzheimer's patients. So I know that there's some clinical trials they're working on, and I also have a friend of mine who has a sibling that has an addiction issue, and they're using DBS for alcoholism and an addiction. So there's so many things that DBS is being used for.
Oh, absolutely. And they're exploring more and more ways to stimulate different parts of the brain and hopefully reverse or improve whatever needs to be improved.
Speaking of dementia, I want to pivot over to Dr. Garrett. So, I want to ask, what is dementia and how does neuropsychological testing help diagnose dementia?
Yeah, so dementia is a decline in memory and thinking skills. And so when that decline happens, it will start impacting functional abilities or day-to-day activities, or what we refer to as activities of daily living. So a lot of times you'll hear patients, family members of patients say they're getting lost while driving, or they can't remember what I told them 5 minutes ago. And a lot of times they'll bring them to the doctor and ask them, let them know they're having some memory problems. So at the Movement Disorder Center, Dr. Evidente then sends them to see me. So what I do is I typically meet with the patient as well as a caregiver to get information, and then I give them tests that will test out memory and thinking skills. But mood is also a factor, so we do need to think about mood, sleep, pain, fatigue, and how that can affect cognition. And then I evaluate them through the battery and then provide them feedback. But I think the biggest part of what I do is not just giving a diagnosis of dementia, but then what can we do from here? What are the recommendations? How can we help the patients? And then how do we provide support to the caregivers?
And for our listening audience, I know we've talked about, if you're listening to it for the first time, Alzheimer's is just one form of dementia. There's so many different forms. And, each one of them has different cause and effects, if you would.
Exactly. Yeah, so a patient with Parkinson's disease that has dementia is going to look different in their neuropsychological profile than a patient that has Alzheimer's disease. So Parkinson's disease dementia, you see more just with executive functioning, what I refer to as the CEO of the company. So planning, reasoning, problem solving. They have more difficulties with those skills.
Right. And, at Cypress, and I know I shared that, a little bit with you before we even started the show, we have a dementia Alzheimer's program. And the great thing about our program is that what we do is we work to help those families create better days for their loved ones. And we do that by having, activities, engaging them, really, figuring out where they are in the disease and, making their quality of life as best they could be by using certain tools and making sure that they're eating their meals at the right time, taking their medications at the right time. And as everyone here in the room knows, socialization is so important. So we make sure that happens and make sure that they're doing activities that they really, really enjoy. Mm-hmm. We have evidence-based information. We've been running this program now for 18 months that we're able to keep people at home 6 to 7 months longer than they would have been able to otherwise, which is a huge home run for those families.
Fantastic.
And, we're very blessed and privileged to have Michelle Toft, who is our memory care training person who has 20 years of experience. She is a master social worker, but also has a master's in education. So she's a trainer, and we've got over 30 caregivers that are trained specifically in this area. It's not a 1-hour training; it's about 30 to 40 hours of training, and it's ongoing training. But we're going out on our third segment. What tune is this here, Glenn? You're the music expert. Come on.
It's a little Led Zeppelin.
A little Led Zeppelin, exactly. Thank you, James. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're ending our third segment. If you're just leaving us right now, stay tuned for our fourth segment. We're going to wrap things up with the folks from Movement Disorder Centers of Arizona and Belmont Village. I've got Tim Cowen and I've got Glenn Piche here, who's going to talk in our fourth segment, right? All right, we will be right back.
You can now catch Secured Financial Solutions on the Money with Anil Basarani and his team every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning from 9 to 10. Secured Financial Solutions believes that an educated investor is a profitable one. So tune in and be empowered with the facts. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. right here on Money Radio 1510 AM and 99.3 FM. To speak with Anil and his team, call now 800-957-5604 or visit dreamretire.com.
Hi, this is Geraldine, owner of Z Cleaners. You may have heard that Z Cleaners is Arizona's only certified couture care specialist. But what does that mean? It means we are required to complete specialized training, pass the toughest cleaning standards in our industry, and we are inspected at least 5 times a year by America's best cleaners. To care for your designer or bespoke clothing, choose the only certified dry cleaner in Arizona. Give us a call today at 602-CLEANER or visit us online at zcleaners.com. Z Cleaners, excellence always.
Hey guys, it's Jason with Money Radio, and I want to encourage you to come in and visit A&D Barbershop. Every time you get a Royal Hot Shave, haircut, or any of their amazing grooming services, A&D will donate a portion of that service to a very worthwhile local children's charity, CP Force, and the Art Heals program. A&D Barbershop, a local business helping local cause. Call 602-265-1556 or go to the website andbarbershop.com. Again, that number is 602-265-1556.
Hi, this is Geraldine, owner of Z Cleaners. You may have heard that Z Cleaners is Arizona's only certified couture care specialist. But what does that mean? It means we are required to complete specialized training, pass the toughest cleaning standards in our industry, and we are inspected at least 5 times a year by America's best cleaners. To care for your designer or bespoke clothing, choose the only certified dry cleaner in Arizona. Give us a call today at 602-CLEANER or visit us online at zcleaners.com. Z Cleaners, excellence always.
This Saturday, come into Village Inn for their Chicken Fried Frenzy. When you buy one chicken fried steak entree, you'll get another free. Only this Saturday, only at Village Inn.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. We're in our fourth segment, and we are just moving right along. If you're just tuning in, I've got the folks from Movement Disorder Centers of Arizona in. I've got Dr. Evidente, I've got Dr. Garrett, and across from me, I've got Tim Cowen from Belmont Village. He's the exec director, and I got Glenn Piche. When we left off, we were talking about Parkinson's, and we were talking about some of the treatment protocols, talking about deep brain stimulation. And if you missed any of that, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the radio button. You can catch those first 3 segments. So, Glenn, I know that you wanted to contribute a little bit. I wanted you to contribute. So, I got you sitting in that chair. So,
well, I've been passionate about Parkinson's.
And I know you love cinnamon. So, no, that was just a joke. But go ahead.
I've had a passion for Parkinson's for a long time. Early in my career, I sold Parkinson's medications, one being Cinemet.
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 Okay, Cinemet.
And it's really L-Dopa with carbidopa, and it's been the foundation of therapy for Parkinson's for many years. The problem with it is it loses its effectiveness quickly, and as Dr. Evidente pointed out, since Parkinson's can be often misdiagnosed, it may be given and it might not have the effects that you're looking for. So it's truly exciting to see folks like Dr. Evidente and his comprehensive approach to treating Parkinson's, as well as the greater team here coming together around some of the symptoms of Parkinson's, including dementia and treating the elderly effectively in the senior communities. So I really feel passionate that it takes a team.
Takes a village.
I guess Hillary was right about that part of it.
Belmont Village.
Belmont Village. But I really appreciate everybody's efforts. Healthcare gets a bad rap a lot of times in terms of our siloed approach to what we do, and coming together today is a great expression of working together. And you guys have put together a fantastic team at the Movement Disorders place with therapy and now Dr. Robin Garrett. What a great offering you guys have over there. You guys really are the cutting edge for deep brain stimulation and Parkinson treatment in this area.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I know we talked about it at the very beginning of the show, and I do want to just give you a plug for your big event that's coming up next Saturday. It's called Move, Learn, Lift Up to Better Health. And it's if you or a loved one suffer from Parkinson's disease, tremors, dystonia, Huntington's disease, or any other movement disorder, come and join these folks. They're located over at 9500 East Ironwood Square Drive, Scottsdale, from noon to 2 o'clock. And if you want to RSVP, call 480-301-7989. Or you can email T, as in Tom, Evidente, EVIDENTE, at mdfa.us. They're going to have live music. Are you playing, Glenn? Because I know you're a musician. They got live music going on there.
Not this event, but a future event coming soon.
They've got door prizes. They got all kinds of things happening. And as I said at the top of the hour, yes, the Phoenix Open's happening. And as Yogi Berra would say, it's too crowded there. No one goes there anymore. Go to this place if you know of anyone or you are dealing with any of these movement disorders.
I was promised bottomless mimosas.
Bottomless mimosas. Okay. All right. Well, that could be there. So you got to go to find out. I want to go over to you, Tim, and talk to you about Belmont Village. We said it takes a village, and you and I are really more on the provider side, and we help so many that are afflicted by movement disorders be able to live out their lives as best as they can. And you got incredible staff, and you've got incredible programming over there. And I want you just to share with our listening audience a little bit more about Belmont Village and what you're doing over there.
Sure. Just like everyone said, it really does take a team. We need the clinical approach and the clinicians to do proper diagnosis, and then beyond that, to keep people actively engaged. Belmont Village has, you mentioned evidence-based therapy. We have a number of evidence-based programs, one of which has been awarded by George Mason University, and it's called Circle of Friends. And it's designed to keep people engaged in group activities who have mild to moderate cognitive impairment and various forms of dementia, and keep them engaged in group activities throughout the day from 9 to 5, and to hammer home and hit the 6 different domains, but basically mental and physical and emotional and spiritual, to keep people engaged. And we've had a number of neurologists who've been surprised that their patients have not needed to be in a secured dementia area, if you will, And so we're evaluating people with a Montreal cognitive assessment tool every 6 months and measuring our results. And it's been very exciting to see how engaged we're able to keep people.
And engagement's such a big part of it. I mean, I think back to the old days. I mean, we used to institutionalize people like that, and now engaging them, they live out fuller lives, and they enjoyed it, and certainly their families can be there and be a part of it. You know, as we wrap things up, I want to go around the room and, you know, kind of take a pop gun or popcorn approach, you know, just comments that you may want to make in closing. I'm going to look at you, Dr. Evidente. Please, you know, please share with our listening audience any final thoughts about movement disorders and some takeaways that you would like to leave with our listening audience.
Well, I'd like to encourage everyone to be optimistic about their movement disorder. One of the things that some individuals are confronted with would be that initial shock that they may be suffering from Parkinson's or from dystonia or some other movement disorder, and that I think earlier diagnosis and earlier intervention would ultimately benefit these patients long term. Not only in giving them quality of life, but also prolonging their life. So take an active approach. If you or a loved one suffers from a movement disorder, then get help as soon as possible, and have the individual diagnosed as accurately as possible, as early as possible.
Love it. Absolutely. Dr. Garrett, any final thoughts you want to share with our audience?
I'm just going to piggyback off of that, because same thing for seeing a neuropsychologist. If your loved one, if you've got concerns that memory changes or changes in thinking skills, have your loved one evaluated, and then we can work on the recommendations and getting them the right treatment.
How about you, Tim?
I'm just overwhelmed at the resources here in our area with a wonderful place like movement disorders and other places like that. Everyone is giving back to the community. So in addition, at Belmont Village, to our residents, we have a Parkinson's exercise class weekly that anyone in the community is welcome to attend. They could just call the main number at 480-945-3600 and sign up. We'd love to have anyone come.
Can they get one of those delicious meals that you were talking about, too?
Absolutely.
I mean, it is about the food.
Complimentary, absolutely.
There you go. I mean, you talk about a community resource right there, Belmont Village. How about you, Glenn? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, just from my background in acute rehab, that's a good option for people if they need to have a high dose of therapy, and then continue that with your exercises. Dr. Evidente said it can be very helpful for you to lead an active lifestyle. So get into neuro wellness and really help yourself out.
And if you're interested in more about Movement Disorder Centers of Arizona, call them at 480-526-5441. Ask for Anna Duran, or go to movementdisorders.us. You've been listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next Friday.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress HomeCare Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
It's not the number of bedrooms, but how many slumber parties. It's not the size of the backyard, but how big the memories. It's not your square footage. It's your circle. At Alaris, we're not about selling you a mortgage for a house. We're here to help you create a home. See how Alaris does banking, mortgage, retirement, and wealth management differently at Alaris.com. Or stop by and talk with us today.
Money Radio 1510
and 99.3 FM. When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin